I'm Maria, Vice Principal at Rehan School Online Academy and also a podcaster. Welcome all of you to our wonderful episode because today we have an amazing guest with us. So, without wasting time, let's welcome our guest and continue our podcast. Today, our guest is very, very special, a founder, a survivor, warrior with an impactful platform, Trying Not to Die. Now we explore her life journey and professional journey too. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, Maria. Thank you so much for having me on your program. I am very honored to be a guest.
Thank you so much. Same here. First of all, please, ma'am, introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Deb Krier, and you already said a little bit about me. I own my own business. It's called Wise Women Communications, and it is a full service marketing firm. But you also mentioned the platform that I have, tryingnottodie.LIVE, and that is based on um, my own journey with cancer and how I now help others. And then the other little thing that I do is I do have my own podcast. It is called The Business Power Hour. And I am currently editing program 1083. So I've been doing it a very long time.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear that. First of all, please tell all of us what inspired the name Trying Not to Die, Live, and what does it personally mean to you?
Well, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I ended up with multiple very severe complications. And I was in the hospital for almost 2 months. And one of the and my mother came to help be with me and help take care of me. And one of the times when one of my caregivers came in and did something and left, I got the disapproving mother face from her, right? We all know what that is. Your mother has given that to you, that right? And I said, "What?" And she said, "You did not say thank you." And I said, "Oh, mom, I'm trying to not die here." And but then when we started working on this movement, I thought about that and I thought what's more important is when we have something very serious, some type of illness that we are facing, we do focus a lot on trying to not die. But the important thing that we need to be focusing on is living. So that's where trying not to die.live came in.
That's an amazing name. What surviving teach you to human spirit?
It made me tougher. And now I was a pretty tough kid anyway. But it more than anything, it made me really realize that life is short. So I don't want to spend my time doing things that don't bring me pleasure. Now, do we have to do some stuff? Sure, right? But it's more about what can I do to enjoy life while still helping others, right? We don't want to become narcissistic and self-centered. I tell people I am an only child, and so I never learned how to share. And we joke about that, but it made me realize to also think about the small things, listening to birds when you're outside, stopping and truly smelling a flower as you go past it, also getting the toxic people out of our lives as much as we can. Doesn't always happen, but we don't have to deal with them as much as we might think we do.
Yes, that's true. And I think that's an amazing advice for everyone. Now, please
Well,
tell us how did your identity shift after becoming a survivor?
it's funny. I tell people I was a survivor 30 seconds after I was told I had cancer, right? Because I was like, okay, I'm going to beat this. Um, and so, I do tend to call myself more of a warrior. And I know that can be a term that not everybody likes, but I am fighting for my life. I am, I'm 10 years into this and I'm still in treatment. I go into the doctor every 21 days. But it really did it really did make me think what is important in life. When I was your age, it was very different as to what I thought was important. And now it is very different. My health is obviously not the same and will never be the same again from the complications and things that I had. It's funny, a lot of people will say, I want to get back to normal. Well, you don't, because your life has now shifted. Anytime you have a very serious illness, things change, your perspective changes, your priorities change. And so we end up with what we call a new normal, and learning to live with that, and recognizing my limitations. That's sometimes one of the biggest challenges for me, is realizing that I can't do some of the things that I used to do, and I never will be able to again. And some of that is just from getting older, but it really is a challenge, and that's something that many people struggle with. Is they're moving on, but that fear of getting cancer again is always there. And that's kind of hard to sometimes be dealing with.
Yes, that's true. What do you believe resilience is taught, inherited, or developed through pain?
All of the above. My mother, she passed away last year. My mother was a very strong woman who taught me to be very strong and very independent. But I think we also find out how resilient we are when we have to go through something that is life changing. And that can be all sorts of things. Maybe it's the death of someone you care about. Maybe it's an illness, losing a job. Let's be honest, some things that change us might not be huge to somebody else, but it's huge to us. But I think it's also in recognizing that we need to ask others for help. It's not about doing it all by yourself. It is about asking for help when we need it. And sometimes that makes us the strongest person that we are, is being able to ask for help.
That's true. What role has vulnerability played in your healing process?
Well, I don't like being vulnerable. Because we want to be tough, we want to be strong, we want to be independent. But as I said, sometimes we have to ask for help. And sometimes that's just saying, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I can't do that. Um, Admitting
Ach-
to ourselves and to others that, things
uh,
are changing.
जी. Thank you for your amazing answer. Now, please tell me what motivated you to become a public advocate rather than healing in silence?
Mhm. I've always been one of those people that helps others, right? I mean, that was just, I mentioned my mother. That was how I was raised. You help others. But I didn't want to be an advocate. I told people I didn't want to be cancer girl, right? With my cape on and, going into doing things. But it was my business coach who told me, and she had to tell it to me many, many times before I actually paid attention. She said, I did not go through what I went through without using it to help others. And I realized that I would already be doing that. Maybe I'm at the doctor's office and they have students, medical students who are there, and they would call me in to talk to them. Or maybe it's another patient who needs, somebody just to kind of sit and talk with them for a while. I've always done things like that. Even if it's just, hey, I'm getting some water. Do you want some water? Things like that. But it was, when I would hear other people talking about how much they struggled, and one of the things that people really tend to say, and this is kind of an unusual thing, is they will say they've never felt so alone. And when they're going through this diagnosis, even though they've got a support system, they've got people helping them, all of this, somehow they still feel alone. And I thought, how can I help that? How can I help them know that they are not alone?
Now, tell us, how can ordinary people turn their pain into a powerful purpose?
I think one of the first things is to accept that things aren't always the way we want them to be and give yourself the grace to feel bad. I mean, there are days where I just am horrible. I don't feel good. I have a pity party. And that's normal. And we need to acknowledge to ourselves that that's okay. But then it's, what can I do? And sometimes it's simple things, right? Maybe it's just smiling and saying hi to somebody who looks a little grumpy, or like my mother said, saying thank you, and things like that. So it doesn't have to be a huge thing. Sometimes the smallest thing is what really makes a difference for someone.
That's so true. Now, has your experience with near death or chronic struggle changed your
Mhm.
belief about life, death, faith?
um it's, in some ways it has. I do really recognize, okay, life is short. The women in my family tended to live into their 90s. I had several, and my great grandfather also, that lived to 99. I mean, several of them, right? And in the United States, that's not always very common. Most people here make it to their 70s or 80s. So I was planning to be in my 90s. That's probably not going to happen. But it could. Who knows, right? But it's made me think, okay, I don't want to put things off. We talk about here in the States about having a bucket list, right? The things we want to do. And I tell people, don't put those off. Do what you can when you can. I mean, it's, there are obviously some limitations, but like one of the things that my husband and I have been doing is traveling a lot more. And whether it's a small trip or something very large, we're not putting it off. I don't want to, right at the very end, be thinking, gee, I wish I should have done whatever it is. I want to, get there and think, okay, I'm done. I lived a good life.
What do you think? What is the purpose of pain in anyone's life?
Say that one again.
What is the purpose of pain in our life?
Pain is caused by anything, right? And
Yes,
and it can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be spiritual. And I think sometimes the biggest challenges that we have are the spiritual pain, the emotional pain. We could take a pill, for our physical pain, or live through it, right? But it's when our hearts and our souls are in pain that we struggle the most. And to me, that it's upsetting when I see people who are like that. And I tell people it's okay to ask for help, right? Whether it's you're asking a friend, maybe it's a spiritual leader, maybe it's a counselor or a therapist, somebody there. But sometimes the absolute strongest thing that you can do is to ask for help. And people shouldn't be afraid to do that. There's still kind of a stigma in a lot of ways for people asking for help, but it's okay to do that.
yes, that's so true. What is the legacy you want try not to die, don't live to leave behind?
I do think about that. Will it continue after I'm gone? Oh, who knows, right? Um, but I want people now and anytime to think, wow, she's really helping people. And more importantly, it's a community where other people are helping other people. And that's what I love about it is, and especially with social media, right? We do have a Facebook page, or a Facebook group, I'm sorry. And there are people there who are helping other people that they've never met and will never meet.
Yes,
But it's, I think that's the thing is, we just want to all go forward knowing that we can and should be helping each other.
yes, that's amazing advice. What small habits or mindset shift made biggest difference in your healing?
Yeah, it's this is gonna sound really silly. I take naps. Right? Um, and right, that like I said, that sounds very silly. But when we were little kids, we took naps, right? And what it did was it helped us recharge our energy to get through the rest of the day. And I've discovered that I need that. I need to at least relax for a while. Maybe I don't actually go to sleep, but to kind of take 15, 30 minutes, no longer than that, because then you get real groggy and you're not good the rest of the day. But yeah, take a little bit of time. And or maybe it's I take a walk, so it's kind of pausing what you're doing to recharge your energy. Sit outside for a little bit, do whatever, but stop working, and more importantly, stop thinking about working, because you're not really resting if you're still thinking, well, I need to be doing this and I need to be doing that. No, this happened and all. No, no. Let your mind rest also. But yeah, naps are okay. I don't care what age you are. Naps are okay.
These are amazing small habits, I think, in every tough situation. Everyone should follow this.
Mhm. Do you take naps?
Yes.
Hey, I love it.
When I am stressful or in my
Mhm, mhm,
too busy
mhm,
schedule,
mhm.
I must take naps.
Right, right. And
Then
you
I
are very
feel,
busy. Mhm.
yes, then I feel recharge, fresh
Mhm, mhm.
energy in my
Right.
mind, my soul.
Mhm,
Then I think we will again continue our work in
mhm,
more effective way.
mhm. Right, right. Yeah, because when we get tired, we do get cranky.
Yes,
Our mind just doesn't function as well as it should. And so it's okay to take that pause and as we said, recharge.
yes. Are there any books or mentors who shape your journey?
It's, not really any books. I do read a lot of business books, and I do that because of my podcast. I have a lot of authors who are on my podcast, but the people, it's more certain things that people do, like I have several friends who are also on this cancer journey, and I am just humbled by what they do and what they go through. The people who helped take care of me, like my husband and my mother. I mean, those two, I can't imagine what they had to go through. Because let's be honest, when we're sick, we're not nice people. And so we don't say thank you. And things like that. And so it's more just little things that people do. It's very interesting. When I was first diagnosed, and again, it was 10 years ago, I lost friends. People who I thought would be my biggest supporters couldn't handle it. They just could not, for whatever reason, didn't want, and won't talk about. No. And some of them I've never heard from again. I mean, it was just they could not deal with it. And then there were other people who I never would have thought would have supported me, have been my biggest supporters. And I mean, it shows their character, right? But yeah, it's very interesting when you go through something like this to kind of see how things shift like that.
And this is fact of life. This is
Hmm.
anywhere,
Hmm.
everywhere. When you are in
Right.
any tough
Hmm.
situation, mostly
Hmm.
our friends, our close
Hmm.
colleagues
Hmm.
leave us.
Right. And when you feel bad, right? It kind of
Yes,
hurts a little bit. But then I thought, well, I guess the friendship was over, and I always wish them well, right? But like my best friend, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and she lives in Denver, Colorado. And so when I was very first diagnosed, I texted her. There were several people that I reached out to, and I texted her, and she didn't answer. And I thought, well, it's the day, middle of the day, she's working, right? Doesn't have time to do this. And so I waited a while, texted her again, and she still didn't respond. And I thought, well, the thing that we all do, right? Do I have the right phone number? Right. And so, and then I got hurt. I was because it's all about me. And you know and then she texted finally, and it was quite a while, several hours after the initial text that I had sent, and she said, "I am having trouble dealing with this. Give me a little bit." And so that was great. I knew, that what was going on, and it took maybe a day, if even that long, before she was able to say, "What do you need me to do?" And she came out twice from Denver to help take care of me, and just to visit, right? Because we need friends to visit. But yeah, we need to give people the grace to know, to work through whatever it is on their own schedule.
What would you tell your 18-year self and 80-year self?
Hmm. Um, I think the younger one, I would say, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. The 80-year-old self, I would love to say you've had a really great life. And keep going, girl.
If you had one last speech to give to the world, what would its message be?
I've one of the things that I have learned is we are in charge, not anybody else, not our doctors, not our friends, not anybody. And so the most important thing is to advocate for yourself. And it's not just with your health concerns, right? Maybe it's at a job where you think you deserve that promotion and you didn't get it, or somebody else took credit for your work. We see that happen a lot, unfortunately, with women. Not so much with your generation, and but we need to step up and advocate for ourselves, because sometimes nobody else is going to. But yeah, we're in charge. And if the doctor says, "Hey, you should do this," okay, I'm going to think about it. I may or may not do what the doctor says, or what a spouse says, or a friend, or whatever. But yeah, we're the ones in charge. If you're asked to do something, say at work, that you might have an ethical issue with, it's okay to say no. Now, there could be, ramifications from that. But again, we have to stand up for ourselves, because nobody else is going to.
That's so true and amazing message for all. What was a moment from your journey that made you laugh unexpectedly?
The little things that people did. People sent me some of the coolest gifts, and I still have all of them, right? Except food. Some people sent food. That was great. But, just the things that people sent, several people sent me prayer shawls, and they have a place of honor in my house, because they it is, something that is very special to me. I think one of the coolest things, and this again came from somebody totally unexpected, a little teddy bear, and you could tell it was a handmade teddy bear. And I sent her, a note, and I thanked her for it. And she told me that her church choir had prayed over it before they sent it to me. And as a person who was in, excuse me, church choirs for many years, that meant more than many other things that somebody did. But yeah, the fact that people who did not know me at all prayed for me and then sent this bear. I mean, that was just, it was so sweet and so moving. And that bear has a very special place of honor in the house.
What has surprised you most in your journey as a founder?
It's hard. you know? Um, I think we all think, "Oh, we can do this," and it's harder than we think it is. Sometimes, um, just keeping at it is one of the hardest things. It's like, "Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do that today." But we need to keep going, right? Because if we stop one day, then tomorrow we might not go again. And to just realize also that it will take time. This isn't going to be something that is huge overnight. And I'll be honest, I don't know that I want it to be huge, but it takes time, and we have to be patient with it.
Yes, that's true. What question do you wish people would ask you but they never do?
What can we do for you? It's people will it's funny, they ask a variation of that. They say, "Tell me if I can help."
Yes,
And that's great, right? But we don't want to impose. Sometimes we don't even know what help we need. And so I tell people, be specific, because then my little brain can figure out if that's going to work or not. Like you might say, "Can we bring you dinner on Friday?" Well, dinner on Friday might not work, but dinner on Thursday could. And so it's be specific. And I think the other thing is just for people to say, "I care." And they many times they don't even want to bring it up because they don't know what to say. They don't want us to feel bad, but it's okay. I have cancer. I will always have cancer. And so it's okay to acknowledge it. We just don't have to cry and get, all sad about it. It's just, "Hey, how you doing? I really care how you're doing." So that was
what?
more than one thing. Sorry.
No problem. Stage is yours. What song or quote has been your life anthem?
This is my fight song. And oh gosh, I just totally forgot who sang it. Carly Jepsen is the singer of it. And it starts by saying, "This is my fight song. Take back my life song." I mean, those are the lyrics to it. And that just really, really, is something. I do have another song. It's by Garth Brooks, the big country singer, and it's called "The Dance." And I have to look over here and see, because I've got it on my wall. It says, "Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I would have had to miss the dance." So I think that's, we need to recognize we can't always be happy. Things aren't always going to go well, but we're going to appreciate them more because of the pain and the sadness that we go through.
That's amazing. Now,
Okay, I
fine.
get to ask you, what song
Yes,
is your song?
I. That's right now. That's don't come into my mind.
It changes, right? Kind of
Yes,
fits the moment.
yes. Finally, what's one message you would like to give to those who are just trying not to die quietly every day?
hmm It's okay to feel bad. It really is. But then think about the things that you are grateful for. Doesn't have to be big. I mean, there are times where I'm grateful I woke up, right? But think about what you are grateful for in life, and then move on and take little steps. Doesn't have to be giant steps. But remember that rather than trying to not die, you do need to remember that you need to live.
Any amazing message you learned from your life journey till now, and
Tell people, yeah.
you
Mhm.
would like to give to listeners?
I tell people I love them. Now it has to be real, right? But it's one of those things, and it kind of startles people sometimes when you say "I love you," but we tend to not say that. And it's okay. It's okay to say "I love you," or "I appreciate you," or, like we said, just say "thank you." But let people know that you care about them.
Thank you so much. That's an amazing advice, and thank you so much for your precious time. I think
Oh, thank
our
you.
30 minutes is over. I would love to see you again in
Mhm,
my
mhm,
next podcast. Yes, then we will have an amazing conversation. So our audience also learn from us, and I think we also learn from each other.
mhm, mhm. We
Whenever you
did. Thank
have
you so
time,
much.
yes, and
Mhm.
whenever you have time, please inform me. Thank
Perfect.
you
Thank
so much.
you.
Take care of yourself. Thank you so much for your precious time.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.